guys, welcome back to ASMR Retro. Today is another entry in my Vault of Retro series. If you don't know, that's where I take a look back at some of the old comics and anything creative that I did in the past, like comics, drawings, computer games that I made, things like that. So today, since it's October, I'm taking a look at a comic I made about zombies, and here it is here. Now, everything is, well, the cover I did recently, but I just took bits and pieces from the comic and put it together and colored it, but everything else is original, from the original comic. So as you can see, it's called Night of the Retro Dead. I didn't really have, like I said, there was no cover originally, and I didn't really have a title, but it was basically Night of the Living Dead. Even though this comic is actually highly influenced by Return of the Living Dead, the movie, and some other pop culture stuff that you'll see. And I did make a few adjustments just for privacy reasons, but anyways, just full disclosure. So you can see here, I added a this thing like you can see in the old Marvel comics, and it says ASMR Retro Comics. You got a zombie there with all blood coming out of its mouth. The cover price is $3.99, but actually it's actually worth $1 million. Today I checked the price guide. I'm just kidding. It's priceless. And here it says approved by the comics code. I should have said not approved by the comics code. That would have been funny, but and yeah. Oh, and I put one of these what do you call it? Not USB. UPS. No, not UPS. Whatever it's called. One of these codes, barcodes. So let's take a look at the cover here. So you got these three characters here. They'll be introduced when I read the comic, but just so you know, that's retro. And it's got an army barrel, very much like Return of the Living Dead, the movie, which, by the way, I'll talk about that more later in the month. You see some poor victim over here. So they're in a graveyard, clearly. You have tombstones here. And then you have the zombies. There's one jiggly zombie here, an old man zombie, 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 zombie. So there is the cover, and we'll talk more about the characters. And by the way, this is, don't take this too seriously. I mean, this is not, groundbreaking comic or nothing. And like most of my projects that I did when I was younger, it's unfinished. Although it is 21 pages plus the cover, so it's almost full comic length. So let's crack this thing open. And yeah, it's not bound. Keep it loose for now. So hopefully you can see it. I didn't originally color in the pages. I know that makes it kind of hard to see sometimes, but try our best here. So this first panel here, you see three characters in a graveyard. So I'll introduce the characters. So that's Retro, aka me. That is Marcus. And that is Jimmy. Okay, three friends. They're in a graveyard. And you see some tombstones there, spooky looking tree. And so Retro says, "What the hell are we doing here? Let's go home." Oh, and by the way, I was a really bad speller. I still am, so forgive me for that. So Marcus says, "Okay, let's go." And Jimmy says, "Yeah, Marcus, I'm scared." So why is he smiling? I don't know. So yeah, I know it's a pretty spooky setup so far. So then they see this weird barrel with, it says army on it. There's a couple buttons or something. So Marcus says, "Hey, what's this?" It says, "Don't touch this. Contains toxic waste, which could turn you into a zombie." And then Jimmy says, "Cool, let's open it." So again, I guess I was trying to parody the fact that in a lot of these movies, some of the characters do really dumb and dangerous things. It's like more like a parody than a serious comic. Like, why would the barrel actually say contains toxic waste which could turn you into a zombie? Yeah, I know I don't have to press this button and maybe it will open. So yeah, definitely playing with fire. And there is Jimmy's head there, and it looks like I originally had a bubble there. And it looks like Jimmy was supposed to say fine leaf, but then I changed it to Marcus for some reason. I don't know why, I don't remember doing that. So there's the first page. Amazing setup so far. So he presses the button, and all this gas starts coming out, and you can see there's a corpse in there, what appears to be a corpse. And Marcus says, "Uh-oh, cough, cough." And here in this panel, gas keeps coming out. He gets up and says, "Oh, did I call him Jimmy? I meant to call him Marcus." So, oh no, yeah, okay, so this is, yeah, I kind of screwed that up, but yeah, I think this is Jimmy now. Because he says, "Cough, cough, look, Marcus, cough. There's a body in there, cough." So Jimmy looks in, and then you see the body in there sort of comes to life, and sort of looks at him, opens his eyes, and that freaks poor Jimmy out. His hair's sticking up. He's freaking out. Poor Jimmy. So then, the hand busts through the top of the barrel because it's like glass. So, grabs Jimmy by the neck, and Jimmy's hair is still standing up. And he screams, "Ah." So now, this is retro. I guess he was walking away. He's a little bit far, but he's not too far, and he says, "Hey, that was Jimmy's scream. I better see what's going on." So Retro goes back to the cemetery, and he sees this gruesome sight. You see Jimmy, not looking so good. He's laying against the tombstone, and a huge section of his head and his hair is bitten off, and his brain is exposed, and there's blood pouring out. Blood. And I used pen to color that in. That's original, I didn't do that now. So there is some color, mostly for blood. So Retro says, "What happened to Jimmy?" And Marcus says, "What happened to him is right behind you, cough." That's kind of weird English, but basically what he's saying is, the thing that caused this is behind you. I thought that would be a clever way to say it, but apparently when I showed this to people, which I didn't show many people, I think I showed one person, but now I'm showing it to many people, but apparently nobody really understood that. So I'll have to rethink that one. So there is the zombie that bit off Jimmy's head, or his brain. I guess he has his brain in his hand. And it's basically Tarman. If you've seen Return of the Living Dead, the movie, that's, I guess, what he was supposed to be, more or less. And he says, "Brains, P-P-R-R-A-A-A." I put the I in the wrong spot. N-N-I-S-S, exclamation point. You see his bloody brain dripping and blood coming out of his mouth. And then in this panel, Retro goes on the attack. So he punches the zombie in the face and punches his face like right through his own head. And oh, by the way, so I decided to make the zombies have green blood. So it's a nice choice, I guess. It gives us some variation. So Retro says, "Wow, I'm pretty strong." And I'm pretty sure, well, in this next panel you see the zombie just standing there and blood pouring out. The green blood just oozing out as he looks at the camera. And I kind of got that, I think, from Return of the Living Dead Part 2. There's kind of a part like that. Not quite like this, but something like that. Anyway, so poor Marcus is freaking out. And Retro, off camera, says, see Marcus here. I don't know where they are. They don't really specify, but he looks pretty happy. And he's like, I guess he's talking to Retro. He says, "You saved my life yesterday. I almost died. I could have ended up as a zombie. I'm going back there today." Meaning going back to the cemetery. Didn't really explain that well. And I'm like, and Retro says, "Why?" And Marcus says, "That's what they do in the movies." So again, another like parody slash self-aware joke, because you always see people in movies, especially horror movies, making really bad, dumb decisions like that. So then, is at the cemetery, and that's where I got a lot of the images for the cover. But you see a tombstone, and you see a hand coming out of the ground. You see the zombie here. Looks like he's wearing a business suit or something. He's all chewed up. There's this chunky zombie here. There's a buff zombie who has steroids, a needle of steroids. I guess maybe he overdosed or something, I don't know. And there is a sexy zombie wearing a mini skirt. And there's, I guess, a female zombie with her head sticking out of the ground. And this guy here, if you can see that, is, I put Rubber Man. So that's another kind of joke from the, not really from, well, the Return of the Living Dead, the movie. There is one zombie that kind of looked weird, and me and my brother always joked, we called him the Rubber Man, because one part he looks like rubber. So that's why I drew him like all kind of, looks like he's jittering, because it's supposed to represent that he's jittery like rubber. So, and then we have Marcus here, he's like, "What's going on?" And he's freaking out because he sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zombies. And, well, I guess, didn't really make it clear, but Retro went with him, because that's Retro there. And this ugly zombie with a worm coming out of her nose touches Retro's shoulder and says, "Brains." Retro's like, "Ah." And excuse the bad language here, but Retro says, "Bite on this, P-word." Yeah, I don't want to get demonetized here, but so Retro punches her right in the mouth and it shatters her teeth. So then, seeing that the situation is looking pretty bad, Retro says, "Let's get out of here. Dutch can help us." So Dutch is their friend, he's another character. And so they go, this is now inside Dutch's house. That's Dutch. Kind of a muscular looking dude. And then there's Retro and Marcus. So Retro says, "Dutch, they're zombies, millions of them. We got to do something. They got Jimmy." And you can see Marcus looking kind of sick. He's like, "I don't feel so good." And by the way, if it wasn't obvious, the toxic waste from the barrel caused all the zombies or all the corpses in the graveyards come to life, and made Marcus sick because he inhaled it directly. So Dutch is like, "Oh sure, zombies, yeah right." So he doesn't really believe, but you see the window in his house, or outside his house, there's a zombie looking inside. And then in the next panel, the zombie breaks through the window and he says, "Brains." And then that's Dutch. Very crudely drawn Dutch says, "You guys were telling the truth. Well, now it's time to kick butt. Let's rock." And it looks like I drew "Let's Rock" with a different pencil. I think I edited that in later. Or at a different time, I guess. Not like years later or nothing. Okay, so far so good. So, the zombie jumps through the window, crashes through, crash, and he says, "Brains." And then Dutch winds up for a kick, and then crack, just kicks the zombie's head right off his neck as he's falling into the window, but he's still saying "brains." And by the way, this is based on the Return of the Living Dead rules of basically can't really kill them. Like, even if you destroy their brain, they're still alive. So, or undead, whatever you want to call it. So you see the zombie's head falls on the ground, and he says brains with all green blood piling up. So this was another joke from Return of the Living Dead 2. So Marcus picks up the head, and he's like, which is really ridiculous when you think about it. Like, he was like a cowardly character. Why would he pick up a zombie head and be so happy about it? But he points at it. He's like, hey, look at this. And then the zombie bites his finger. See a little bit of blood. And he's like, Retro, get it off. And if you watch Return of the Living Dead 2, there's a part like that where they sever a zombie's head, and then the guy is freaking out who's holding the head. And for some reason, he puts his finger, like, right towards the zombie's mouth, and the zombie bites his hand. It's like, why would you put your finger there? It made no sense, but it always made me laugh to see that part. So that's kind of a parody of that. It wasn't supposed to be, I guess it was kind of supposed to be funny in the movie, but not in the same way that I thought it was funny. And then this also happens in the movie. So Retro comes in and stabs the head with a screwdriver, which doesn't kill it, but I guess it was enough for it to let go. So here you see Dutch. He punches this large zombie in the gut, and kind of like, what do you want to call it? Really has no effect because the blubber just kind of like moves aside or whatever. And Dutch says, what the F? So Dutch picks up the zombie and says, you're going back out the window. So he's going to throw him back outside the window. So now this is outside the house. You see a window there, you see this big toothed zombie, you see this farmer zombie with a pitchfork through his stomach. It's like, wow, how did he die? What happened to him? This is outside the house, and then bam! And you see that's Dutch throws the zombie through the window, but he says, oops, I threw him a bit too hard, and he just puts a huge hole in the wall. Pretty cool. So then you see Dutch punches this old zombie dude, and then he gives him an uppercut and knocks off his lower jaw. And actually, this was influenced by Final Fight. That drawing, I guess, when Cody does his uppercut punch, kind of reminds me. I think that's where I got the idea from. But I can see originally in this panel, I don't know if you can see it, but I originally drew the old zombie's dentures falling out after getting punched, but then I erased it because I guess I wanted to draw his jaw coming off with, so it wouldn't make sense if he spit out his dentures and then he still had teeth. Just a little bit of trivia for you. Alright, in this panel, so you see the larger zombie still alive, grabs Dutch, he says brains, and Dutch turns his head, he's like, uh-oh. So, does a nice drop kick, but once again, it's like his stomach just kind of engulfs his foot and his leg. So they fall. Zombie falls on his back, but Dutch's foot is still stuck in there. He says, oh no, my foot is stuck. So another bony zombie comes up from behind and touches his head and kind of messes his hair there, which Dutch doesn't like that. He says, nobody messes my hair. And look at this, he rips off his shirt, groundskeeper Willie style. It says, now let's rock. And the dude is shredded. Look at the muscles. Like he's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, an 8-pack. He's got all the muscles, the striations. It's ripped. And he looks like he means business. I used that image on the cover too. face, the zombie, and he says, Dutch says, eat floor. Man, that looks devastating. They should try to perfect that kind of a suplex in wrestling. Got the neck breaker suplex. Okay, here you can definitely see some Street Fighter influence. So yes, Dutch is doing a Shoryuken. I know that's not how you spell it, but that's how I spelled it at the time. So Shoryuken. So he punches the farmer zombie. I like the continuity I have with zombies because it showed that zombie outside before. I didn't just come up with another random zombie because he would still be around, right? So that's pretty cool. I know not much to read on this page, but yeah, I was a kid. So then he grabs this female zombie and does a pile driver, Zangief style. Well, I don't know if it's a spinning pile driver, but it's definitely a pile driver. Crack, and look at her neck just cracks open like that. Damn, that's devastating. Looks pretty powerful. And then let's look down here. So this is retro, and this is an ugly zombie with like a worm coming out of his nose or something. Either that or it's a booger. And he grabs retro shoulder. It says brains, of course. What else? They don't see anything else. And I'm like, retro, same thing. It says but there's a hand that taps on his shoulder from behind. Who could it be? So the zombie turns around like, what was bothering me now? And it's Marcus. A close up. So this is what the zombie sees, is a close up of Marcus. And he's got some acne. And teeth that need some work. And he says, Retro, I came to save you. So this is really the only act of bravery that Marcus has in the whole comic. It's the only thing of value that he does, really. But it was really just for comedic effect, because what happens is I hope you can see this. The sight of Marcus freaks the zombie out, and the zombie takes off. So we managed to scare a pretty disgusting zombie just by looking at him. And Marcus is like, what the hell? But he's still coughing. Cough. Because once again, he breathed in that chemical. Which I never really got to that part. Because like I said, this isn't finished. But in Return of the Living Dead, when they breathe in that chemical, after a certain amount of time, they turn into a zombie. If they breathe it in directly. So that was where that was going. But never really got there. So again, this is another Street Fighter reference, or ripoff, or whatever you want to say, where Dutch is doing a flash kick. Of course, that's Kyle's move. And he hits the zombie's head, and it just goes flying off. Oh, maybe it's, I never thought about this, but maybe this is this zombie, and he ran right into the flash kick. That would have been pretty cool. And again, look at all the abs and stuff. And then another Street Fighter reference. And another landscape page. This is, I'm not sure how well that's coming out, but that's supposed to be M. Bison's move from Street Fighter 2. It's basically, see, I used to call this, me and my friends used to call this move the flaming torpedo, and that's really what I thought it was called for years, and I think it's called the Psycho Crusher, but I'm not sure if it's one of those moves that have two names, like some people call it this, some people call it that, and they're both valid. I don't know. I know for sure Psycho Crusher is a valid name, but anyways, doing the Psycho Crusher on the zombie. So yeah, I don't know how Dutch would have those abilities, but like I said, it was the 90s, so it was a different time. Okay, so this is gonna take some explanation. So I had to censor this page because I don't think YouTube would take too kindly to it. I don't want to get demonetized here, but as this is a naked female zombie, and I censored it out for the purposes of this video. However, and she's supposed to be from the Return of the Living Dead as well. There's a naked zombie, a female zombie like this, and I've decided just for fun, you know what, I'm gonna put the uncensored version on Patreon. So if you want to see that, head over there. There's not much to see on Patreon, I'll be honest with you, for my Patreon, but it's really just to support me if you want to. But occasionally I will put some stuff like this that I can't put on YouTube on the Patreon, so it's up to you. It's only $3, but whatever. So, Retro and Marcus encounter these three zombies. He's got this old man with a cane, this female naked zombie, and this skeletal looking zombie with ragged clothing. It's pretty much just bones, but I don't know how I could be walking around like that. And of course, they're in unison saying brains. If you haven't noticed by now, they really like to eat brains. So, first Marcus says, "Oh no, Retro, what are we going to do now?" Cough. And Retro says, "I got a plan." Now, by the way, I'm not exactly proud of this, but this was an idea I had when I was a kid. So what the hell? Hope nobody's offended. But, and once again, some more censored artwork here. You got that female zombie here. Of course, still saying brains. And Retro is grabbing something and stretching it quite long. And he says, these should do the trick. Like I said, go on the Patreon if you want to see it. And then, I guess Retro tied up the three zombies with the assets of the female zombie. Like I said, I can't say too much, but you know where to find the uncensored version. So, and this is the last page here. Like I said, it was unfinished, but you see Marcus once again turning around and saying, "There's more behind us." And here comes the Rubber Man again with all his jitters. Jitter. And he wants some sweet brains. He's running in quick. So Retro grabs a bat and says, "Batter's up." Swings for the Rubber Man's head. Poor Marcus is freaking out because he thinks he's about to die. And then boom, there goes the Rubber Man's head. And so you'll notice that his physique changes quite a bit. And that was a joke because me and my brother always noticed that on Return of the Living Dead there's a scene where the Rubber Man, they cut his head off. And then when he stands up, he has no head, but his body's totally different. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it was funny because obviously at that part they were using like a fake body or whatever. And it looked totally different than the original body, so that was just kind of a joke there. So, and yeah, that's where the comic ends, unfortunately. I wish that I finished it, but hey, maybe I'll make a part 2 one day. Or an issue 2, I should say. And since I might as well show something else because I don't know when I'll be able to show this again. A couple of other random pictures that I did. I think I showed some of this stuff last year. Some random Freddy comics that I made, that's right. But I had a couple of random Freddy pictures that I drew. I might as well just show them. There's just 2, so what the hell, I'll just show them now. There's this one. I drew it in pen, so you can see a large Freddy head. And you can see he's eating 2 victims. 1, 2. You can see the teeth going right through. A bunch of blood coming out. And he says, tasty. So that's pretty cool. And then the final thing to show you is another simple Freddy thing. Also done in pen. It's just Freddy's glove scratching the wall or whatever that's supposed to be. So just a simple little picture, and it says Kruger lives. I don't know how the hell I spelled Kruger there, but it anyways, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you later.